Hello, Sacred Earth friends and family. Michelle here once again. And today I'm here to talk to you again about soul contracts and soul contract revocations. This is part 3 of that video series that I have been making. And today I wanted to talk to you about sovereignty, soul sovereignty, and what happens during that birth process when that fine print is added into your soul contracts. So that's exactly what happens, is we make these pre-birth agreements that are divine and organic, and that we would experience karmas that are going to be in alignment with our soul, that has, we came here to balance karmas, but we did not come here to experience the fine print that's inserted in our birth contracts, okay? And that's done by the system of domination and control, and having a birth certificate, having a social security number, that right there sort of denotes ownership on a soul level. So that's something we don't want, okay? And so I wanted to talk to you about that and what it's like coming into this reality, okay? So this is a false matrix, a false reality, okay? When you revoke the soul contracts, I was talking about that space that is created where you have a little bit more room to move. I talked about that in, I think, the first video. And then you can even expand that space if you stay with the practice even more, okay? So this is creating a natural and organic space for you to be in. It's like a meditation space, what we would call like liminal space, where it's free and it's organic and it feels really good, as opposed to the contracted karmic space that we can get into. Not that we can get into, that we exist in for the most part. So I wanted to talk about the lower 3 chakras, because in the last reading that came up, the red card, the orange card, and the yellow card from the chakra deck. And so that's where a lot of the programming occurs, is in those lower chakras, okay? And so one of the things that we have to do as humans here on this earth is sort of transcend that lower nature, the lower chakras. And there's many programs that run through those lower chakras, the root chakra, the sacral, and the solar plexus, that keep us stuck in those lower vibrations, in the lower states. It doesn't allow us to fully move into our hearts and using our voice and our throats and opening our third eyes and ultimately the crown, right? And so those programs can vary. They can be things like, I have that deck right here. There's one of the cards. That root chakra, some of the programs there are survival programs, right? Keeping you stuck in survival, or not feeling connected to the earth, not feeling grounded, not feeling like you belong here, like you should be here, like you deserve to be here, okay? There's a lot of that. It has a lot to do with your inner child too. So inner child healing work is really good for strengthening that chakra, because we just had the Aries full moon, and that Aries full moon was very telling, and it revealed so much. And one of the themes that came up so strongly during that Aries full moon was this theme of divine innocence, and that's what I want to talk to you about today, is divine innocence. But I'll get more into that later. So anyway, back to the root chakra. So that is, that healthy sense of self is the Aries sign, right? And that is the first house in the zodiac, and that is the baby of the zodiac. And it's like literally like when you're a baby, where you're like, I am. The world revolves around you, right? As a baby, and it's all about your survival needs and that kind of thing. So that theme really came up for me a lot during this Aries full moon cycle. So I'll get more into the divine innocence though. So another program was the programs of the sacral chakra, and I don't have that card. The other card isn't here, but it was, I think it said self-worth on it. And that's a lot about sexual programming and some of the programming that comes to us through religion. And those are a lot of like shame programming, feeling like a lot of repression of the sexual energy and feeling like you can't have that sexual or sensual experience. And unfortunately, many people in our world suffer from this, and there's a lot of sexual repression, and there is the persona, the mask, or the thing that we have to wear that keeps us safe. And so we're not always going to be putting all our sexual, stuff out there. That's just natural. But what I'm talking about is just not feeling free to express that sensual sexual experience. Okay, these are programs that run. And then the solar plexus, which is, here, the solar plexus, which is the yellow card that I pulled before. And that has to do with issues of self-esteem and experiencing pleasure. And, so what we're looking at here is, worthiness, survival, self-esteem, competition drives, survival drives. Okay, that's all the 3 lower chakras, which we would consider the animal nature. That's our animal nature, and these are necessary, and when balanced, they can be very healthy, right? We can be very grounded. We can be very, we can have a sensual experience in this reality. We can use our competition drives in a healthy way. That create a will to do more, a will to be better, a will to succeed. That's not driven by, that sort of, stepping on other people in order to do it. It's healthy and balanced. Okay, and so these programs very much, are running through us. So think of it like the Autopia ride at Disneyland. Where those cars are driving on the track, but you're not able to actually go off the road or go as fast as you want to go. You could kind of look at that as being an analogy, okay? Whereas, as opposed to going off-road in your four-wheeler, and driving wherever you want. So think of it that way. Okay, so that's programming, and that's something that the soul contract revocations do, is they override the programming that is instilled in us. Okay, and some people have lots and lots and lots of programs running through them, and they wouldn't probably even know it. I mean, they're not awake, right? And the more that we awaken, and the more that we start to understand this process and what's happening here, on a soul level, when our third eye is open. And a lot of people are going through that right now. They're now just rubbing the sleep out of their eyes, and they're starting to awaken. And some people have already awakened, or there's different levels of it, right? Different levels of awarenesses and different levels of connection to spirit. But when we do this, then we can start to, be in charge of ourselves, okay? Go off-road, act according to our own soul sovereignty and free will, okay? And I don't mean to oversimplify the concept, but I do want to make it understandable, okay? So we live in domination and control. That's something that we will have to transcend and come out of, and that's just the history. And we could get into the whole history of our Earth, galactic history, and all that. That wouldn't be probably my job to do that. So, but that's a whole nother ball of wax, okay? But just know that's it, and do the research and find out for yourself more about that, okay? I was thinking recently too about an analogy in a movie, which was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. So I was thinking about how Willy Wonka and the Chocolate. I know this sounds really silly, but to me it's a good analogy, and it's just something I was thinking of, and I'm like, I'm going to talk about that. So the Chocolate Factory, you could look at that as like domination and control, okay? And, these kids come to the Chocolate Factory to have this experience in the Chocolate Factory, okay? And each kid has a different thing, right? They're really out of balance. They're too much TV, or, too much chocolate, too much of, greediness, right? It speaks to the lower nature that I'm talking about, those lower chakra drives, right? And it also speaks to the concept that I brought up in the other two videos of sin, right? Where we get really caught up in like, oh my gosh, that's a sin, and it's like not even a sin, and you're not a bad person, right, for having lower desires or lower, So, an example of that in that movie, in that book, it's a book, right, and a movie. An example of that would be Charlie and his grandpa having the fizzy lifting drinks, right? Remember they drank the fizzy lifting drinks? And then at the end of the movie, Willy Wonka says to him, you broke you see it right there in the contract. It says right here in the contract, right? He pulls it out and he's got his, and he's very angry. And, then I think Grandpa says something like, oh, well, if we'll give Slugworth the everlasting gobstopper if he wants one. And at that moment, Charlie made a choice to not give in to, what I would call domination and control. And at that moment, he claimed his divine innocence, okay? And so you could look at the everlasting gobstopper as domination and control, or the wheel of karma, right? It never ends. It's the everlasting gobstopper. And at that moment of choice, he took the everlasting gobstopper and lays it in front of Willy Wonka, and lo and behold, he wins the whole chocolate factory, and he gets to go through, right? He gets to make it through. He breaks through the ceiling. And that's very much what domination and control is like, okay? Silly example, but it just occurred to me, and I was like, you know what, that really makes sense. And there's many interpretations for that movie, I'm sure, but that's just the way I see it, okay? So that speaks a lot to the tacit consent and the false reality that we live in, okay? And we get really wowed by the distractions of our reality, just like the chocolate factory, don't we? The thing is once you awaken enough into this reality and you do this work, you start to see it as being funny. There's no longer to feel the fear, right? That's a lower chakra energy. That's root chakra, fear. There's no reason to feel that, because it's almost like, oh, I'm in a haunted house and, it's kind of funny. It's kind of a joke. I see that it's fake. And now I can be free to play in this reality and co-create and experience the joy of it. And so that's ultimately what we want to get to, is the joy of this reality. Okay? So that's how I see it. Okay. So yeah, a lot of that lower chakra programming, the root, the sacral, particularly the sacral, that a lot of that comes from religious programming, that you have to suffer, that you need to be, a lowly, humble, you need to suffer for your sins, and oh my gosh, if you've done something wrong in this reality, you need to pay your penance and you pay your price. And that is false, okay? Now there has to be ownership, responsibility, and integrity, and that's the thing about these soul contract revocations. When you're doing this work, you're actually stepping up into a higher level of responsibility on a soul level. Nobody gets away with anything, really, because what you're doing is you're taking on more responsibility when you do this work. It's actually when you are in victimization, the shame, the blame, and the guilt, there is no responsibility in those states. That's a lower level of hardly any responsibility. This takes you into a higher level of responsibility because you're becoming free. It's like, as opposed to Autopia, let's go back to the Autopia analogy at Disneyland. Autopia, there's no responsibility for driving that car. The car could practically drive itself. But if you're going to take a vehicle off-road, out into the desert and go right over the sand dunes, you have a lot of responsibility in that situation. So you see how it works. So there's no need to suffer in this reality. And boy, do we punish ourselves and make ourselves suffer a lot, So letting go of the shame, letting go of the guilt, all of that is an important part of this, okay? Healing those lower chakras. Speaking of healing lower chakras, I actually I did a full moon cleanse. We had this Aries full moon, very telling. Oh, the divine innocence. I want to get to that. Aries is the most innocent sign of the zodiac. It's the baby of the zodiac because it's that I am, you know, presence. It's like you being a baby. So that's how Aries is. And if you go through the whole astrological wheel from Aries all the way to Pisces, that shows a path of development. Okay, but that's a whole nother thing. Maybe a video for another time. So Charlie putting that everlasting gobstopper on, you know, and saying, you know, here, I don't want it, was him claiming his divine innocence. Who cares if I drank fizzy lifting drinks? You know, who cares? And all of us sort of embody all the children in that story, right? We have all those aspects of us. So Charlie's one archetype, you know, Veruca Salt's another archetype, you know, and once we integrate those lessons of the lower chakras, then we can really step into our divine innocence and claim our power and move in. And I think the fourth card I picked was creation. We can move into that creative space. It's very hard to be creative when you're driving on that Autopia ride, like the ride at Disneyland. Okay. So that's we literally create our reality, and once we become free, we become powerful creators. Okay. All right. Another thing I wanted to talk about related to the soul contracts is that we can get a generational healing from this too. Okay, so it has a ripple effect in time, forward and backwards. You heal the past generations, you heal the future generations when you do this work. And so for me, that personally has been a really big motivating factor in doing this work, because you know, it's like saying the karma stops here with me. I'm not going to pass this karma on to my children or my grandchildren and so on. It stops here. Okay, so healing ourselves is really, really important. Okay, we just got an emphasis there with that. So, but yes, healing ourselves is the most important work you can do in this life. And then when you do that, you can be of greater service to others. So pour into your own cup so that you can help others, okay? And it's helping others in the unseen, future generations. There's a generational healing that can happen here, okay? You call in your ancestors. You're calling in your ancestors, and they bear sacred neutral witness to your revocation work. And so they, too, are getting a healing. Those loved ones who have passed on are learning from your experience as well, okay? Because they have a more bird's eye view of your situation than you know, when they were incarnated with you, and they can see so clearly the work that you are doing and the work that they were doing in the lifetime, and the work that they will do in their next lifetime. Okay, so it's my understanding there's an incarnation grid and a reincarnation grid, and what we're trying to get out of is the reincarnation grid. We can choose to incarnate here of our own free will choice, and that's what we want. Okay. All right, I'm going to pull some cards today, and so I think I'm going to pull a significator card, and I think I'm going to pull from the Cosmic Reading Cards deck again. Okay, let's see what comes up here. Shadow Self. Oh, yes. So that work is super important, and we were talking about those the lower chakras. We're talking about those archetypes from the Willy Wonka story. That those kids all represent like our shadow self. And so here in Scorpio season, we just moved into Scorpio season, which is very telling. The videos that I started creating started out in Libra season, and now we're moving into Scorpio season. So we're diving a little bit deeper and moving into, you know, the things we hide, the things we don't want to look at necessarily, okay? But shadow self, yes. Doing that shadow work is very much a part of this work, because I feel like it's the shadow self that leads us to this work, because, the shadow self, there's a bit of suffering that occurs there, and the shadow self is where the system can hook us. Okay, it's like those kids in the story, the acting kind of spoiled and bratty. They're very representative and telling of the shadow self. And so that shadow self is where we get hooked, and it's where our traumas are, and it's where, it's the things we hide. And so when we bring these things out into the light, there's a strong desire to heal, and we are able, when we do the soul contract revocation in combination with our shadow work, we are actually getting a greater healing. Okay, so that's the overall theme for this reading, is the shadow self. So very telling moving into Scorpio season. Okay, so let me move on. I'm going to move on to the Psychic Tarot Oracle for the Heart. Here at the park again, lots of people around. Sometimes it distracts me, so I'll try to stay focused, but once in a while I find my thoughts waning. Oh, Seek. So a card just flew out, and the card is Seek. Okay. So this card to me is very much about returning to the soul. Many of us are seeking something of more meaning in this life. Okay. The shallow things in life aren't necessarily bringing us fulfillment or satisfaction. And so doing the soul contract revocation work is very much like going inward and taking a look on a soul level. It's finding your soul again, okay? Bringing that soul essence into light. And the way the card looks to me is the way that it feels when you do this work, creating that space around you that feels good, okay? I'm just looking at the card. It's so beautiful. It's a form of surrender. I'm no longer trying to control my reality or follow the programs, because that feels safe to follow the programming, but I'm actually coming into my soul essence, and I'm letting my I am presence be the guide, the driving force behind the revocation work, because that's what it is. It is the soul, the I am presence, driving the work. And you see the two birds there? Really pretty. Love that. Really beautiful symbolism. Okay, it's like communing with Source too. Like our feathered friends, the feathered animals, are the ones that really represent our connection to Source, to God, to creation. But we also have all that greenery in the earth there, and that's increasing your connection to the planet as well. Okay, and then we see the birds also imply masculine and feminine, God, goddess. So again, we're bringing back that balance. Okay. Okay. All right. So I'm going to move on to another deck. Let's see. This one is going to be from the Earth Magic deck. Okay. Let's see what the Earth Magic deck has to say. Earth Magic. Do a little shuffle here. It's so pretty out here right now. Such a nice fall afternoon. Love it. Okay. Let's see. Instinct, wolf. Oh, I love that. I love the wolf. Feel a real resonance with the wolf and the spirit animal, the spirit guide. The wolf is very much acting on our instinct. When I see wolf, I think of that I am. I think of that Aries energy. It's because the Aries energy just acts on pure instinct, okay? It's like very much in the moment. What do I need to survive? What feels good right now? That kind of thing. It's a very quick energy, as I'm snapping my fingers. And the wolf is also a pathfinder, okay? So this work is very much about finding a new path too. And being the lone wolf, because you see the lone wolf, when you do this work, you are being a lone wolf. because you're saying, I'm doing what's in the best interest of my soul. I'm carving a new path for myself. I'm acting on my soul's instinct. And I'm individuating, okay? Back to the process of individuation. I'm individuating, okay? Awesome, okay? All right, so let me move into another one. Let's see what else. Should I pull? I feel like I'm going to pull from the chakra deck again. I pulled from that deck last time. Okay, a card just flew out as soon as I started shuffling, and it is trickery. Trickery. Okay, and this is green, resonating with the heart chakra. And so this very much is speaking to the deception of this reality and how we get tricked into believing certain belief systems, okay? Our belief system, whatever it is that we believe, is the driver of our reality. So when we shift our beliefs, when we change our beliefs, we change our reality. So I think of it like this soul contract revocation work is very much like taking the chessboard of this game and instead of playing the chess game, you're saying, I no longer play the chess game. You light a match to it and gone. I'm not going to play this game anymore. Okay, this game has been going on for a long time. You know, we are in an ascension cycle. So these are very long cycles of time, 26,000 year cycles. And then of course there's smaller cycles within that cycle. But, I don't want to get too much into the precession of the equinox and how time works and all that. But we're in domination and control. So it's a fraud reality. There's a deception here. And we need to remove the deception, the fuzzy goggles we have laid over our eyes and see things clearly, okay? I'm looking at that card a little bit more, see if there's anything I can pull from it. Yeah, so just not believing the lie of this fraud reality, okay? Pretty distracted by the people in the park, okay? So let me move on to another deck. So what deck one? Let's see. I'll pull one from the feather deck. Okay, which is a divine. It's getting kind of crowded here. I'll pull from the feather oracle. Yeah, unless lots of people around here start getting distracted when too many people come around. Okay. Oh, I love this. Wow. So this is white eagle. So eagle feather, white eagle. Okay, so it says the connection to divine guidance is within you. Okay, white eagle. And I was talking about how our feathered friends, they represent our connection to, God's source. And so this work is just going to connect you more fully to the divine. Okay. And it's coming from within you. So again, we're talking about the I am. The I am is the one making this declaration. It's the driving force. That's where the power is, okay? Okay. Let's see. All right. Let's see. I'm going to pull another one. Oh, and you know what else this reminds me of? Divine innocence. Yes. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the divine innocence. So I've really come into this concept lately, and I'm even going to be a collaborative author in another book, which is by Rada Publishing, and it is the Pillars of Light. It's called Pillars of Light, and it's about a goddess activation that I had, and I wrote a chapter in that one, and I wrote about a green Tara was the energy that I was activated in. And it very much to me, it's the divine, I think the title of my chapter was There's Power in My Innocence. And that is so true, is that when we stand in our innocence, we can really have a better experience in this reality. And letting go of all these false concepts of, being, a sinner, and that you deserve to suffer, and, you have to be like this humble, meek and lowly person in this reality. And a lot of that comes from religious programs from other lifetimes. Many of us carry that within us. We carry this religious programming. We think that we can't, shine too bright because of past life wounding. I know for myself personally that I have this past life wounding of really being sort of diminished in my light, because when I shined brightly in my other lifetimes, or my other lives, I have been absolutely persecuted for it, and actually just cut down. So that time is over. We're in the time of grace. We're in the time of ascension, and I shed off all that programming. And even by speaking here on this video, I'm doing that. Okay, exercising my throat chakra, exercising the voice, speaking my truth, and speaking as I see it. So this is a return to innocence. Okay, when we we were first created, I'm thinking back, and this is what I wrote about in my story. When going back to the time of Lemuria, where we were very light beings, and just we just worshipped creation. Things were light and beautiful, and there was no war. Okay, it's like a return to that. This is the beginning of that, and we absolutely have the potential to do that. I mean, I'm not saying it's happening tonight and today, this moment, maybe energetically, but you know what I'm saying. It's a return to our innocence. We are innocent. In religion, I was taught that there's this thing called original sin, but I believe in divine innocence. I believe in original innocence, and that's what I claim for myself. Okay, so there's that. I think, I was pulling from the Moonology deck, so let me do that. And should I make this a wrap-up? Do I have another one? I think I'm going to pull one. Did I pull that out? I was looking for my animal deck. I'm going to pull one from my animal deck, too, as a wrap-up. Okay, so this is just another insight card. Let's see what the Moonology deck has to say. Okay. You are good enough. Full moon in Virgo. Okay. That really speaks to the perfectionism again. And so Virgo has this reputation of being this very perfectionistic sign. And going back to purity and innocence again. So there's a lot of layers to this. Okay, so Virgo is probably one of the most distorted interpretations in the zodiac, because it gets this bad reputation for being this perfectionistic and persnickety sort of sign, overly concerned with the details, that kind of thing. But Virgo, the ancient archetype of Virgo, is this goddess, and she is an earth goddess, and you could think of it like okay, so Virgo is about for the word virgin. Okay, we're talking about purity, chastity, all that, right? That's not the real meaning of it. We think of it that way, but a virgin, the way it was meant back during those ancient times, a virgin was a woman who was untethered. She was not married. That didn't mean that she was necessarily, pure and chaste. It just meant that she was her own person, which really speaks to soul sovereignty. It also speaks to divine innocence as well. Okay, so there is the that divine innocence thing, if you want to relate it to purity or chastity, but it's not purity or chastity that is by definition meaning abstaining from sex or sexuality, or it's more about being untethered, being free, being sovereign, and these these women were well respected. So But you are good enough, okay? This is really about believing you are worthy enough to claim your divine innocence, that you are not doomed to a life of suffering. Some of the programs that of the lower three chakras that I was talking about are actually, suffering programs, misery programs and things like that. And so we don't need to have that. That doesn't come from you. If you naturally are a divinely innocent person. You just need to evolve enough to the point where you can see that or understand it. This work overrides the programs so that you can get into that space of understanding, of feeling that soul level peace. Yeah. So, okay. Let's see what else. Okay, so I'm gonna pull from my Spirit of the Animals Oracle. Okay, and this is going to be a final card, a wrap-up card. And I'm seeing a lot of greens coming through and white in this. So I'm seeing that heart chakra energy. This is really much about opening and connecting your heart and expanding your heart space. So when we, let go of the programming of those lower programs I'm talking about, when we override it through soul contract revocation, we really do have the capacity to open up our heart. Most people walk through life with very closed hearts, okay? And that's why they're so caught up in the mental brain, the mental side. It's like the Karens of the world. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. But really, when you think about that, even just like the archetype of Karen, very closed up hearts, right? They're the ones that are always telling you what to do and, that you need to do this, you need to do that. Okay, a card just flew out as I was shuffling. Oh, heron. That's the second time that animal has shown up this weekend for me. Heron. Heron is a teacher of patience. Create a place in nature's stillness and be renewed. Take time alone to find balance. Step confidently towards your purpose. Patience will bring you rewards. Okay, few different things coming through for that card. And one of them is having the patience and the discipline to do this work. Don't expect a one and done overnight thing with this. This is a practice and it has to be ongoing. And it takes time to heal. Healing is a process. It's not like you can, just do your healing overnight. It's a series of choice points and steps in your life that are going to take you towards wellness. Think of it like a 12-step program for your soul. Okay, there's so many things. I'm being silly, but there's things that have to come together here. Okay, and so have patience with this process. It's not an overnight process. Heron, the spirit animal, the spirit of heron, they sit and they wait. They wait. I went to the beach a few weeks ago, or a couple months ago actually, and there was a blue heron there just sitting. It was awesome to see. They don't take flight very often, and when they take flight, it's majestic. And talk about sovereignty. I mean, their wingspan is just, it's just really beautiful to see. But they don't do it very often. They wait for the right timing. So there's a lesson here about divine timing. And they also, there's also a lesson of patience. They can patiently sit and wait as long as they need to. Okay, so there's that. And then it says, take time alone to find balance. Take time to do these revocations out in nature, okay? Get out, get outside. Where it says create a space in nature's stillness, okay? Take time to pour into you. This is about pouring into your cup. And step confidently towards your purpose. Patience will bring you rewards. So with time and diligence and putting the effort in, make this another aspect of your healing journey. in addition to all the other things that you do, this will come with time. You'll begin to see a shift in your life. So patience. Okay, that's the wrap-up card. That's the closure card. So let's take a look at these cards all together. Okay, so the first one was shadow self. Okay, that was our overarching theme, working on the shadow. I used the Willy Wonka analogy and the kids, the archetypes from that story. Seek, okay, seeking that space for your soul, shedding off the controls of the control system and really feeling the peace of your soul. Okay, wolf, instinct, acting on instinct, being a pathfinder, creating a new timeline, being the lone wolf, the process of individuation, being an individual, not conforming to what society wants, but conforming to what your soul's needs are. Trickery. We live in this false matrix, this facade reality, and there's trickery afoot, okay? And all of it is about harvesting your energy, because you are a literal battery for the system, and the goal is to reduce you to matter, material, okay? When you are more than just matter, you are spirit and you are infinite, okay? White eagle, claim your divine innocence, okay? And your connection to the divine, okay? And then you are good enough, okay? Virgo, she's a sovereign woman, okay? Untethered, that's what the definition of Virgo is. It's also about, it could be about your purity and your, but not the purity that's projected on you through, this chastity idea, but more your divine purity, what's present in nature, right? Living free. And Heron, patience. Be patient with the process. This takes time. Healing takes time. This is not an overnight process. Okay? Embark on the journey. Okay? So there's that. Okay? All right, friends. Well, I hope you enjoyed this reading. I enjoyed doing them. I love being in this space. And I will come back with the how-to of doing the soul contract revocations, and possibly more videos in the future. Okay? Well, thank you, friends. Namaste.